It's Mozz, it's Chaz, and we're talking about Jessica Jones. Hey, welcome to the AKA JonesCast. Tonight's episode, Season 1, Episode 12, the penultimate episode of the series, AKA Take a Bloody Number. The hunt for Kilgrave reunites Jessica with Luke. Trish receives some unexpected information about Simpson and Jessica. Directed by Billy Gerhardt. Written by our good friends, created by Melissa Rosenberg, written by Hilly Hicks Jr., and of course, staff writer Jenna Reback. She is our, she is the hard-working member of the team, up and down the boards every night, making sure this show makes sense. Okay, so this is a pretty great episode, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we get like such a data dump in this too, where we get so many things coming to fruition as we're moving through. Where do you want to start?
I think where Luke runs into Kilgrave. I think that's an interesting place to start, because obviously he got blown up and came out, and Jessica sees that he's okay, and now we're sort of recounting how, you know, he met Kilgrave, which is a bold move to make. I guess it was the only play to make for Kilgrave, allowing Jessica to know that he'd been under his control.
Well, yeah,
and to assume that she would just overlook it.
And the thing is that is, I mean, yes. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so it's that is a brilliant little play there. You know, you present an image and then you use the preconceptions about that image to your advantage. Now, in this case, we get basically it opens up with Luke blowing up his own bar. And walking out a little bit on fire.
Just a little.
Just enough, you know, because, of course, unbreakable skin and all that stuff. So he comes out of the fire, he's okay. And him and Jessica have a conversation, and Jessica basically makes the assumption that, you know, Kilgrave didn't really... Well, she does ask if he knew he had powers, but then cleverly, Luke responds, it's not something that comes up in conversation. Which is an interesting point when you think about it in retrospective, because does that mean that he did know that he had the powers, or just that he is changing the subject, you know? Interesting. So, basically we get a flashback to when Kilgrave leaves the restaurant after everyone tried to hang themselves.
Yeah. And
you see Luke Cage basically come up to him and is about, 3 feet from a pop to the back of the neck that would certainly knock the head clean off the shoulders.
Yeah.
But then Kilgrave says, stop. And I love when he wants people to tell him the truth, and he really hates hearing the truth. It's like, tell me the truth. Do you love me? No, you're a pathetic loser. It's like, well, that's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted the truth to be what I wanted, I don't know why he keeps on asking people to tell him the truth, Yeah. Anyway, so Luke gets under his control, and he is commanded by Kilgrave to blow up the bar with himself inside it and make sure Jessica's watching. Which he did. And so theoretically his action has been completed.
Yeah.
And
I just think it's such an interesting, and what a lucky break for Kilgrave to just be running away and have Luke just walk up to him, Like, well, yeah. He just got like a free grenade launcher in a video game or something. It's just like, okay, I've got the biggest weapon I can have.
Yeah, well, it does work out well for him, and he uses it subtly and interestingly, to say the least. So, and this is where we get a very interesting point about what Kilgrave has been putting himself through, about his expanding his circle and the length of time that he can control someone before he has to renew that control. And for what it's worth, interestingly enough, even though they know this, Jessica never once suspects that she has been had by this. Because they do find out that he is expanding his area of control when they look up the nightclub. And, of course, that's where it all leads. But let's get some other factors here. We also have Patsy in her hospital bed after she sort of survived a red overdose.
Yeah.
We see Patsy being talking about the IGH company, which is the company that runs the
tests.
Yeah, the nuke experiments on and actually I did notice it is Will Simpson. It's not Frank Simpson, which is an interesting thing. But they do actually expressly call him out as Will Simpson in this several times. So makes me wonder if we're one day going to get a Frank Simpson as his dad. The original nuke out lost in the jungles of Vietnam. But anyway, so she's talking about this, and of course, in walks her mother, played by the masterful Rebecca De Mornay. An excellent actress, and here she is playing the evil mom. And there is this strong urge on the mom to sell this idea that she is on this redemptive path. But of course, Patsy is not buying it, to say the least.
Right.
But to that extent, she does hand over one IGH file. And again, this is one of these things where it kind of makes you wonder in the long term when we get to season 2, is Dorothy in on the IGH protocols? Does she know more than she is letting on, even as she's handing over to Patsy all of the files?
Right.
She
seems like if they were part of the experiments back then, she was in on the ground floor. And part of the reason that talent agency existed was also to help find suitable children for these experiments.
Ooh, that's an interesting take on it.
Right?
Yeah, I wonder if that'll come up in the Cloak and Dagger series.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, or the Runaways, all of which are coming soon. What I really actually wonder, I was just thinking about this today, is I wonder if Malcolm Ducasse, Eka Darville, will wind up in the Runaways series. Because, funny thing, the Runaways series in the original comic opens up in a support group.
Oh!
Yes, for essentially ex-superheroes or supervillains or people who have been hurt by supervillains or superheroes. So I was just looking at that today and saying, "Oh man, is he going to be part of the Runaways plotline on Hulu?" I hope so. Looking forward to that, and it would be great if they do. And if you aren't already writing that up to have Eka Darville as your group counselor advisor to the Runaways, get on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, and like you said, this is a great episode of a series of two-person conversations.
Right.
That play out really nicely. We get of course Trish and her mom. We get Jessica and Luke.
Yeah, we get Kilgrave and Luke. Kilgrave and Dad.
Yeah. And Kilgrave and Dad, I think was really one of the better ones. And
because he's so brutally honest in that situation, know?
Yeah.
Because his dad knows all and it almost allows him to let his rage and his sense of entitlement to some sort of resolution to all of it grow and blossom. And you get that wonderful scene where he's on the balcony just staring out, just spouting all the evil things he wants to do to Jessica, and to watch her will break.
Oh my God.
It's so dark.
Kilgrave is not a nice person. If you didn't get that earlier on in the series, they want to bring that home. But we do get some some great moments here. One of which is, so we have this great scene Kilgrave and his dad are coming out of a club where Kilgrave was trying to essentially control the entire club. But of course, there were some hecklers in the back, which really frustrated Kilgrave. And, his father's trying to explain to him that, the increase in power is incremental, not exponential. And this guy comes up to Kilgrave saying, "Hey, man, that was a great thing you did up there. That was cool. Totally got your art." And then Kilgrave tells him to stop talking, to go stand in front of the fence forever.
Forever.
Yes. And of course, his father says, "That's just cruel, Kevin." And of course, he says, "Yes, but it's not really going to be forever because it's incremental, not exponential." Almost as if he was disappointed that he wasn't going to make this poor guy stand there forever. And for what it's worth, and actually what I think is kind of a point here, kind of a hint here, is we see that when Jessica and Luke go back to the club, he's still standing there.
Yeah.
Which actually suggests that his power, was meant, I take to mean, was meant to show you that Kilgrave's powers, that the length of time you have to go without exposure to him has extended.
Mm.
And to make you, at that point, realize that maybe Luke isn't as free as he says he is.
Huh.
And, of course, you get, okay, that's what I needed. Has Kilgrave gotten the full dose yet, or is that the next episode?
No, I don't think so.
No, he hasn't gotten the full. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he hasn't gotten the full dose yet.
No. Yeah, he hasn't.
Yes, because he tells Jessica to stop, and she doesn't stop. And again, this is one of those moments where it's like, okay, you're not going to stop, so why are you not flying up to snap his neck right now? But moving right along, and they have a conversation, and then all of a sudden we get the big reveal that Luke is still under Kilgrave's control, and Luke and Jessica proceed to have a very heated battle.
Yeah.
Ending with Jessica, essentially they get out to a cop car after Luke punches 2 more cops. Goodness, that's not going to come back to haunt him, I'm sure.
Right.
And then Jessica fires a shotgun at his chin at point-blank range, which is enough to give him a concussion.
Right. Now, at that point, I really thought, I don't know why, just because in the heat of the moment, and from how good she sold it, I almost expected him to die. And I was like, oh wait, he's indestructible. But
yes, and we also saw his next series, so
Well, no, but I mean, like, she sold it really well. It almost convinced me for a second that he was about to die. Like, she had to make that choice,
Yes. And for what it's worth, Kristen Ritter is a fantastic actress and really brings the character of Jessica Jones to life. So, good on her for that. So of course she takes Luke to the nearest hospital. And who happens to be working at the nearest hospital tonight, Mozz?
Of course, Claire Temple.
Yeah,
Like she needs to be.
Some people are just superhuman magnets. That is apparently what we're dealing with here. And of course they're trying to, get a blood test and they can't get through his skin. So then Claire and Jessica decide to make a run for it. And as Claire and Luke get out of earshot, as it were, Kilgrave reaches out to the hospital as a whole and tells them, "You all must kill Jessica," which results in all of these, near zombie people coming out of their, bedrooms, stumbling towards Jessica. You quickly realize this was not in any way a real threat to Jessica. But
although she was attacked last time by like 8 regular people from the building and was subdued because somebody thought to have a 2x4. So I figured, she should take regular people a bit more seriously than she takes them, and it proves like she still hadn't listened.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Right in the leg.
Yeah.
Like, are you paying attention?
Oh my, yes. So, but she does escape. She does get away. And she goes to Claire, and Claire is basically explaining what's wrong with Luke and how, they need to reduce the swelling on his brain. And how did they manage to do that, Mozz?
What, they were just going to put ice packs on him, right? Or
Well, yeah, no,
Oh, God, yeah, but wait, they have to get the spinal fluid.
yeah, and the only way to do that is to go
That-
along the optic nerve.
Right. But I didn't understand that part. Why did they need the spinal fluid?
Because basically what was happening is he had a closed head trauma, and his body was pumping fluid into his brain.
Oh, okay,
to sort of
so that's what's
protect it. But of course, what happens in those situations is that because his skull is still there,
right.
basically the fluid is crushing his brain.
Gotcha.
So they go in, they go along the optic nerve. Now I'm not necessarily certain why the optic nerve was the option to go with and not the olfactory nerve. I mean, obviously the optic nerve is more visually disturbing.
Yeah.
But I do think that the olfactory nerve would have been the more practical route. I mean, you have to shove the needle up his nose, but that is actually where the brain comes out and peeks into the rest of the world, is at the olfactory nerve. So, but that is that. Yes, interesting side note, I've always thought that if you were ever going to create a really powerful virtual reality, like a jacking system, it would actually connect to the olfactory nerve. So that if I ever write a hyper sci-fi series, when they go into that virtual reality, you're gonna shove stuff up their noses.
Huh.
That's my take on it, because that's, because there's the olfactory nerve completely tied to memory and visualization, and it's the one part of the brain that actually sticks out into the rest of the universe. So
Interesting.
yeah, so if you could just send the communications along the olfactory nerve, you could do that whole virtual reality craziness. Anyway, so Claire manages to save Luke, and Jessica gets back to her detective working, finding out what Kilgrave is up to. And at the same time, Patsy comes back to let Jessica know she has uncovered the truth of IGH, that they are the ones who paid for her medical bills, and the ones who created Will Simpson. And that is a big deal. It's funny, I always, because it's called IGH, I always want to say that the H stands for Hellstrom, because that's Damien Hellstrom's last name, and he eventually marries Patsy Walker, and he is the son of Satan. So,
wow,
that's some pretty cool stuff there, is what I'm saying. Okay. So, and then another interesting side note in this storyline is, of course, we get Malcolm and Robin coming to terms with the fact that Ruben has died.
Right.
Because, of course, a power cord that he wanted just came, and and she realizes that she had told him he couldn't get the 2-day shipping. Yeah. So sad. And then
it's that crazy scene where she's following after the stakeout, following the Asian guy who comes into the pharmacy and leaves.
Oh yeah, well that's Jessica. So she goes, because they've checked out the pharmacy where they are getting the chemicals to create to intensify
ultra powerful Kilgrave,
Kilgrave powers, and they know that he told these people in there to just keep on working until they made enough, and of course, so people are neglecting their own hygiene in order to fulfill Kilgrave's wish.
Right.
The Japanese guy picks up the drugs, but then when they follow him out, he obviously hands off the drugs to somebody, and then he throws himself on some garden shears. Yeah.
Oh, God.
That was messed up, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Does anything else happen this episode, Mozz? It was a very action-packed episd, to say the least. There was a lot going on. We do get a nice resolution with Robin and Malcolm about, Malcolm essentially throwing Ruben into the East River.
Right.
But Robin seems to take it in stride, and honestly, I kind I kind of want to see more of Robin in whatever next series we get.
Really? Oh, I'm so annoyed every time she's on the screen.
Oh, yeah, I guess for me, I just love that. I love a character that is just not going to go along with your craziness of superheroes. You know? Just totally going to be oblivious to it. I find that to be such a fascinating character choice. So
I don't know, for somebody that's like they have yet to give her a redeemable quality. She is nothing but whining and weakness and I don't know. Maybe I guess that's
bullying.
She's lost her purpose.
She's a very real bully to Ruben. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I definitely I definitely hear what you're saying. I mean, that is without a doubt the way that they have played her. But for some reason, I guess it just maybe I got a penchant for redheads. But yeah. She definitely, I definitely like the way that Robin has been portrayed in this, even as she makes all the wrong choices and, really makes things worse for all around her. I'm still kind of like, yeah, but that chick's got something going on. I don't know. But that's me. And,
so one of my favorite parts of this episode, just for a personal reason, when I was in high school, the first play that I ever read that I really enjoyed and woke me up to reading plays was Cyrano. And that scene where he says to her, what was the line he says to her? And I'll say it 1,000 times a day, I forgive you, right? Mm-hmm. And he recites that line back to her, and it's like an evil version of Cyrano right there.
Oh, yeah. Because
where he's not doing it to profess his love. Well, he kind of is doing it to profess his love, but not in the way that Cyrano did.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, you know what? That's an interesting point. Is I don't necessarily know if it, when you really start to analyze old stories, you sometimes realize man, Cyrano is kind of a stalker, isn't he? So maybe it is very Cyrano in that sense that Kilgrave knows that Jessica likes Luke and is feeling very supplanted in his own imagined love of Jessica Jones there. So, I kind of can see that being a very Cyrano thing, going through the person who can get there to say how you feel. Yeah. But, yeah. Oh, I think that's everything for this episode. Oh, do we get the power boost this episode? Like the final power boost?
No. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that next episode. Stay tuned, lords and ladies, because it only gets more crazy.
Yeah.
As the JonesCast carries on.
Yeah.
Okay, Mozz, if anyone wants to reach out to you, how can they find you?
They can find me on Facebook at Mozz Manzor, or they can reach out to me via email at mozzmanzor@gmail.com. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way our Mozz and Poz once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, just follow me on that old Twitters at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for the quality. Okay, fair listeners, thank you once again for tuning in for another AKA JonesCast. Until next time, just know that me and Mozz really want to be your friends. Good night.